Over the past few months, I've been testing out these Volt interfaces that Universal Audio sent to me, and I've got to say, I think they're some of the best options for the money. By the end of this video, you'll know which Universal Audio Volt interface is right for you based on how you plan to use it. Let me know in the comments which interface you choose and why, and don't forget to use the product links in the description below to support more Audio University content like this. All of the interfaces I'm about to show you have a few common features. They all connect to your Mac, PC, iPad, or iPhone with a USB-C connection. When they're connected to a Mac or PC, they don't require a separate power connection. However, you'll need to use a power adapter when connecting to a mobile device like an iPad or an iPhone. Each interface has a variety of analog inputs and analog outputs, but they all have a MIDI input and output for connecting a MIDI device, such as a keyboard controller. Each interface also has a direct monitoring feature that bypasses the DAW for your headphone mix. This is useful when recording in large sessions that require more processing because you can avoid potential latency by monitoring the input directly through the interface itself. All of these interfaces also have you covered with separate volume knobs for studio monitors and your headphones, which is essential. You'll find a vintage mode switch on each microphone input, which models the sound of the highly sought-after Universal Audio 610 tube preamp. I'll demonstrate this later on. It's helpful to separate these interfaces into two groups. The first group will be the Volt 1, Volt 2, and Volt 4, and the second group will be the Volt 176, 276, 476, and 476p. There's a big difference between each of these groups of interfaces that I'll demonstrate later on in the video, and a few more subtle differences. The Volt 1 is a 1-in, 2-out audio interface. The input on the front has a built-in preamp that allows you to connect a microphone, instrument, or line-level device directly. The two line outputs on the back can be used to connect a pair of powered studio monitors, and there's also a headphone output on the front. The Volt 2 is a 2-in, 2-out audio interface. Both of the inputs have built-in preamps for microphone, instrument, or line-level sources. And this interface also has two line outputs on the back for studio monitors and a headphone output on the front. The Volt 4 is a 4-in, 4-out audio interface. The two inputs on the front have built-in preamps for microphones, instruments, and line-level sources, but the two additional inputs on the back are only for line-level sources. There are a few additional outputs on this interface as well, which can be used in a variety of ways. As you can see on the interface, the monitor output is switchable between the various options. The Volt 176 is a 1-in, 2-out audio interface. The input on the front has a built-in preamp that allows you to connect a microphone, instrument, or line-level device directly. And the two line outputs on the back can be used to connect to a pair of studio monitors, and there's also a headphone output on the front. The Volt 276 is a 2-in, 2-out audio interface. Both of the inputs on front have built-in preamps for microphone, instrument, and line-level sources. And this interface also has two line outputs on the back for studio monitors and a headphone output on the front. The Volt 476 is a 4-in, 4-out audio interface. The two inputs on the front have built-in preamps for microphone, instrument, and line-level sources, but the two additional inputs on the back are for line-level sources only. There are a few additional outputs on this interface as well, which can be used in a variety of ways. As you can see on the interface, the monitor output is switchable between various options. The Volt 476p is also a 4-in, 4-out audio interface. All four inputs on the front of this interface have built-in preamps for recording up to 4 microphones, instruments, or line-level sources at once. There are 6 line-level outputs on the back, and as you can see on this interface, the monitor output is switchable between various options. The Volt 476p gives you 2 headphone outputs. Like I said, every Volt microphone preamp has a switch for vintage mic preamp mode. Pressing this button will add some flavor and richness by emulating the Universal Audio 610 tube preamp, a classic preamp that you've undoubtedly heard in some of your favorite albums. Let's listen to a few examples of vintage mic preamp mode. Right now, you're hearing the sound of my voice through the Electro Voice RE20 microphone connected to the Universal Audio Volt 2 with the vintage preamp mode turned off. Now you're hearing the sound of my voice through the Electro Voice RE20 microphone connected to the Universal Audio Volt 2 with the vintage preamp mode turned on. With vintage mode turned off, you get a clean sound, while you get a more rich and full sound when vintage mode is turned on. Let's listen to how it sounds on an instrument. The main difference between the first and second group of interfaces is that the interfaces within the second group have onboard 1176 style compressor circuits, which are designed to emulate the renowned Universal Audio 1176 limiting amplifier. Plenty of plug-in emulations of the 1176 exist that give you tons of control just like the original unit, including some of UA's own plugins. But what makes the Volt 76 compressors unique is that they compress the signal in the analog domain from the mic preamp before it's converted to digital. The fact that this is an analog compressor, of course, means that you won't be able to undo the compression that you've applied, but it also means that you can start shaping the tone of your signal from the beginning. And I think this is a lost art for us younger engineers, the idea of committing to a sound and starting with the end in mind while tracking. Not only can the 76 compressor be used to catch quick transients and avoid clipping in a fixed point recording system, but it can also be used to shape the sound of vocals, guitars, drums, or any other instrument you're working with. This can be a huge benefit to musicians, live streamers, and podcasters who want a streamlined way to create a more polished sound very quickly. Let's listen to the different modes in action. Right now, you're hearing the sound of my voice through the Electro-Voice RE20 microphone connected to the Universal Audio Volt 276 with the 76 compressor circuit turned off. Now you're hearing the sound of my voice through the Electro-Voice RE20 microphone connected to the Universal Audio Volt 276 with the 76 compressor circuit turned on. You may notice that the signal is a bit quieter when the compressor is turned off, while it's a bit louder when the compressor is turned on. This is because the compressor reduces the difference between the quiet and loud parts, and then boosts the overall signal level, resulting in a louder signal with more controlled dynamics. If you're just starting out and looking for a simple interface, the Volt 1, Volt 2, and Volt 4 are probably the best value for your money. The preamps in these interfaces are more powerful than some of the competition, meaning that you can get a good recording level with even the least sensitive microphones, such as the Shure SM7B, even without using a cloud lifter. The headphone amplifier is also pretty powerful. It's able to give me more than enough level through my 250 ohm headphones. I'd only recommend the Volt 1 and 176 to those who are certain they'll only need one microphone input, such as a solo creator or podcaster. Having multiple mic inputs is really useful for recording a singer-songwriter with a guitar and vocal, or making stereo recordings or interviewing a guest. Even if you don't think you'll use the extra preamp in the beginning, you'll almost certainly want additional inputs in the future. If you plan to do some more advanced mixing with outboard gear and mixers, you'll want to go with either the Volt 4, 476, or 476p so that you have the necessary inputs and outputs. For example, you could use the additional outputs for sending signals out to an outboard compressor and use the additional inputs for bringing that signal back into your session. The 76 compressor on the Volt 176, 276, 476, and 476p is a handy tool for streamlining a live stream setup or setting yourself up for success in the mixing phase. You can dial in the sound and maximize the level of your voice or instrument without the need to use any additional software. You'll also get much better input and output meters on the 76 models than you do on the base models. That additional headphone amplifier on the 476p may not seem like such a big deal, but it's actually really helpful when collaborating with others. Now, you could use the additional outputs on the Volt 476 to set up separate headphone mixes through an external headphone amplifier, but it's nice to have it all built into the interface itself. Watch the video that's on your screen now to learn how to set all of this up for the first time. I'll see you over there.